5. Jessica Simpson.
So, because it's been like 4 years since you've been here. The last time you were
Yes.
here, you were pregnant. Actually, the last 2 times you were pregnant. You only show up here when you're pregnant.
I know.
Yeah.
And so now, thank God.
You're not.
Jessica Simpson is a rather interesting case when it comes to celebrity status. No, really, I mean it. She was, at one time, one of the top female singers in hip-hop, and her marriage with 98 Degrees frontman Nick Lachey was so big that it got them their own very popular TV series. But that didn't last, and she later continued with music and with fashion, which suited her better. But in May 2017, things didn't go so well on The Ellen Show. And I mean, it really didn't go well for her. I mean, just looking at her in the interview itself, you could tell that something was very wrong. Jessica seemed very out of breath and even was slurring her words like she was drunk or something. And when answering questions, like if she was pregnant or not, she didn't exactly give coherent responses, which is odd to say the least. Not to mention, something must be wrong with your head if you can't answer yes or no questions with a simple yes or no. What's worse, she went off on conversations that were awkward in nature or just plain weird to talk about on daytime TV. And no, I'm not going to mention what they were because some of them were honestly kind of gross. So yeah, not the best interview ever. It got so bad that Ellen couldn't even keep a straight face. She laughed continuously at Simpson's topics and answers and had to look at the camera several times to let the audience know that she had no idea what was going on. The only times Ellen does this is when she knows she can't make it stop until everything is said and done. And when Ellen poked fun at Simpson, she didn't seem to notice. Like when Ellen noted, "You somehow have a billion-dollar fashion empire," which Jessica laughed off and said, "It can happen to anybody." No, Jessica, it can't. That's the point. Eventually, Ellen had to pull the plug on the interview, not just to save face, but frankly, to save sanity. So what was her deal? Was she tipsy, under the influence, just not prepared for what was happening? No one really knows. And that's why this is so dang uncomfortable. It's true that hosts can't always control their guests, but there is a decorum to things like this. The guests need to be of sound mind when they come onto the show. And most importantly, they need to be respectful of the host and the audience members who traveled there to see them. I bet you that the guests weren't happy with what happened there. I know I wouldn't be if I was a fan of hers. 4. Katy Perry.
You are single. And
Ready to mingle.
Ready to mingle. To have that consensual adult time, is what you say.
Yeah, fun time for adults.
Right.
Let's be honest here. While a lot of these celebrities are the ones making things uncomfortable, sometimes it's Ellen who screws things up, which is natural. She's not perfect. But when she screws up, oh boy, it can get pretty awkward. Such as one time where she made a goof of a lifetime when interviewing beloved singer Katy Perry. And it ended up with a now classic moment of the guest going off on her for legit reasons. So what exactly happened? One time she brought Perry onto the show to play a Would You Rather game. And one of the questions was about 2 celebrities that she would want to marry. Perry went, "Do I have to get married? Again?" and played it up for the crowd. Ellen was confused by the statement and somehow forgot that Perry was once married to actor and comedian Russell Brand. If you didn't know, it was a short-lived marriage for a whole host of reasons, which you would think would be enough of a reason to forget about it, but Katy was flat out shocked about the memory lapse, even noting, "Remember, you gave me some wedding gifts on this show?" To which suddenly the memory started flowing back to her. Oops. Which is pretty bad when you really think about it. Forgetting the info is one thing, but forgetting that you had Perry on before and gave her wedding gifts when she was on? Yeah, that's not cool, Ellen. The funniest part of it all was that Perry motioned to the people behind the scenes to cut this part of the interview out, but clearly that didn't happen, and that's why it's one of the most awkward moments in The Ellen Show. 3. Ryan Seacrest.
And I saw the spider, and then I felt the spider, and then I tried to find the spider, and I couldn't find the spider, so I knew the spider was still there, and I panicked, and I thought the spider is gonna lay eggs in my ear when I fall asleep and have baby spiders inside my ear canal, so I can't lay here and do this. I'll be awake all night and be tired at work tomorrow morning. I've got to get up early for work tomorrow. So I left the house, and I checked into the Mondrian, and I don't know what happened to the spider.
Let's keep the blow-ups going on a light note because this very awkward scene wasn't anyone's fault per se. It's just a case of mistaken identity, but not of a person, rather. It was an item of questionable origin, which truly does make this a very special thing. Here's the deal. Seacrest came onto the show and gave Ellen a gift. What was it? A bingo game. Ellen is a very well-known game night host, and she even has her own game show, so this was a very lovely gift. But unbeknownst to Seacrest at the time, Ellen knew what he was giving her, so she decided to add to the gift by giving one of her own. She gave Seacrest a gift bag next to her chair, and when he found it, he pulled out the gift, looked at it very quickly, and went, "I don't know what that is," stuffed it back in the bag, and looked away from it. What's the gag? What he received was a blue bingo stamper. What he thought he somehow got was an adult item, if you catch my drift. Naturally, the audience and Ellen knew what he was talking about, but Ellen couldn't stop laughing long enough to tell him what the gift actually was. So to try and break the tension, Seacrest grabbed his gift to Ellen and tried to start a bingo game. See, sometimes innocence is hilarious, and if you thought that a beloved host got you an adult item, I bet you would have a similar reaction. 2. Kathy Griffin.
I was on the no-fly list for 2 months. When I was interrogated under oath, I didn't just get like a phone call, interrogated under oath, and they were considering charging me with the crime of conspiracy to assassinate the President of the United States, which holds a lifetime sentence.
Kathy Griffin is one of the few celebrities who's only not been on the Ellen DeGeneres show, but likely won't ever be on it. And it's not because the two are rivals or anything. Ellen is infinitely more popular than Griffin, but rather Griffin made a request of Ellen. Ellen said no, and then Griffin went off on her because of it. So Ellen responded in kind, and thus she hasn't been on the show. What could Ellen have done to get that kind of a reaction, you ask? Well, it's not what you think it is. Griffin didn't insult Ellen at all. She merely asked that she pay tribute to Joan Rivers when she passed away. Joan Rivers was very much the first lady of female hosts on TV, even taking over for Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show before getting her own series, and a lifetime of fame as a result. Not to mention, Rivers was a comedian like Ellen and Griffin, so you mix all that together, you get a person who deserves to be paid tribute to, right? Not in the eyes of Ellen, as you'll see. While it's true that Joan Rivers was someone who paved the way for people like Ellen, and definitely like Griffin, that doesn't mean that everything she did was good. Rivers was infamous for her various feuds with people both in real life and in the spotlight of television. She even took advantage of the operator once to make a prank phone call on someone she was feuding with. Not to mention, her comedic style was more insult comic than pure comedy, and Ellen knew that. Ellen refused to do the tribute to Rivers when she died because she saw her comedy bits as mean, and thus didn't want to praise that. Griffin didn't like that one bit, even calling Ellen an untalented hack, which obviously is a straight-up lie, and getting into war with words with her over everything. Eventually, the fight stopped and Griffin tried to play nice with Ellen, but at that point, it was far too late. Ellen was asked about the ban that had been in place on Griffin, and she noted that it's kind of hard to be banned from the show if you've never been on it in the first place. Zing! 1. Kanye West.
Don't tell me about being likable. We got 100 years here. We're one race, the human race, one civilization. We're a blip in the existence of the universe. And we constantly trying to pull each other down, not doing things to help each other. That's my point.
Kanye West may be one of the biggest names in rap, but he's also one of the most infamous people on the planet currently because of his personality and attitude. Part of which is accentuated by the fact that he's bipolar and refuses to get medicine to help him with it because he says medicine clogs his mind. Right, because you were so good without the medicine in you. Anyway, because of his condition, his interviews are sometimes painful and awkward to watch and listen to. In May 2016, he appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Like Kanye does, he went and pumped up the crowd and had everyone excited for his appearance. But then, Ellen went and asked a very simple question to Kanye. Do you regret any of your Twitter posts? This question was poignant because Kanye had started to unravel around this time mentally due to his bipolar disorder. To that end, he got more and more erratic and would go off on Twitter sometimes for no apparent reason. So the question itself was valid and totally in line with what Ellen would ask guests normally. He took this question and delivered an answer in terms of a 6-minute rant, and it wasn't about his Twitter posts either. He talked about his career in music, fashion, his race, the media, and more. And he kept talking and talking and talking. He would talk to Ellen, talk to the camera, talk to the audience, and on and on and on. And Ellen, she just sat there and took it in for all 6 minutes of his rant, only smiling to the camera when it panned to her to show that she wasn't going to interrupt, which is more than I can say for other people who would have wanted to in order to keep everything flowing. And then some of his comments got dark, and it put even more stress on Ellen, who definitely wanted this to be over. Could you imagine being in the audience during that rant? I wouldn't have wanted to be in their shoes for it. It was awkward and painful, and proof that Kanye is not stable in the least. So hopefully Ellen doesn't have him back on the show, and if she does, she knows not to ask him questions that'll send him on rants like this. Then again, any question could technically send Kanye off on a rant, am I right? So, what do you think? What do you think of these celebrities that went too far and Ellen had to react accordingly? Do you think that any of them are going to try to get back on Ellen to tell her off? Or do you think Ellen will make sure that doesn't happen? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.
A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's really your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Go for it.